here with Hector Barretto
Yes.
and Victor Padilla with Latin Times, and we're going to interview him for the magazine. What inspired you to work for the SBA and begin to work with the TLC?
That's an interesting story. What I say, and it's true. I was busy minding my own business, and the President of the United States asked me to come back and run the Small Business Administration, which was a great honor. I didn't expect to do that. But what the president told me was he really wanted somebody that came from the small business community running the SBA. SBA had been around for 50 years, but they had never had a small business person run the organization. And so that's one of the reasons that I think he chose me. And I went back there. I spent almost 6 years in Washington, and I'm now the second longest serving SBA administrator in history. So I'm honored by that. We were able to accomplish a lot of good things back there. There were some very difficult times in Washington during those years as well. But I'm very proud of the service and what we're able to accomplish back there.
And I know that you've been doing a tremendous job also. Tell us about the Latino impact in Florida and the U.S. as well.
Well, as you know, the fastest growing segment of business in the United States is Latino business,
That's right,
Hispanic
that's right.
business. And we believe the numbers are about 3 million Hispanic companies. Those companies are already generating about $400 billion in revenue.
Wow, that's
And
a lot.
demographers that study these trends tell us that those numbers could double every 5 years.
I believe that.
So we could have 12 million Hispanic companies in the United States within 10 years. It's an explosion of growth, and it's all across the country. It's not just in important states like Florida, although Florida is one of the major Latino states for Hispanic businesses, and we see those trends growing. Obviously, our businesses have been affected by this downturn in the economy, and that's why doing events and initiatives like business matchmaking, I think, are so important to help them, continue to grow, especially as they navigate through these difficult times.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And it definitely has caused an impact. And you know, many people are already reaching out. Like different corporations are already realizing they have to start reaching that market.
That's true.
So
It needs to be a two-way street, as you know, because of the business that you're in. Latinos in the United States represent $1 trillion in purchasing power. And so that is a market that nobody can ignore. In the past, somebody might have said, well, it's a niche market, or it's only a market on the coast, or whatever. Can't really say that anymore. And the census really taught us that as well. We represent about 18% of the population now, on our way to 25% of the U.S. population. So this growth is not going to stop.
what advice would you give young Latinos who are starting out in business and who want to be successful?
Well, I wrote a book called The Engine of America, where I tried to lay out some of the things that are important for any business. I talked about some of those things in my presentation earlier. They need capital, so they need to understand how they're going to fund their business. They need to have realistic expectations. A lot of times, people go into business and they think they're going to be profitable right away. You and I both know, running businesses, that it takes a while before you're profitable. They need capacity, and what I mean by that is there are certain things that they're going to be good at, and there's other things that they don't know anything about. They need to figure that out before they start their business, because oftentimes what happens is small businesses get into trouble. It's not their fault, they just don't know what they don't know. And that's when it gets very expensive, and sometimes that's what leads to the end of the business. In the United States, we lose 50% of our businesses within the first 4 years. So there's a lot of loss there. Now, if you could surround them with some of these tools, their chances of success would increase. They need business, or that's the third C, contracts. They need contracts. And the other thing right now in this environment, they need to control their costs. All of that needs to be spelled out in a plan. And so those are some of the things that I would tell them. I would tell them to reach out to the SBA. They can get a lot of this assistance for no cost. But there's so many resources on the internet now. I mean, there's no excuse for not having the information that you need to be successful in business.
That's right. And I want to encourage everybody to, what's the website?
Our website is thelatinocoalition.com.
That's right.
We talk about a lot of these things on that website, the different programs that we offer, the different events that we have. And I mentioned earlier that we're having a major event in Washington, May 21st to the 23rd. I'm expecting 1,000 small businesses to show up.
You heard that. You marked that on
That's
your
right.
calendar.
May
Attend
21st to the 23rd, go to Washington, D.C., and we're going to have business matchmaking there. So for those that attend and want to meet procurement officers of federal agencies or corporations, we can help them do that.
Okay, I got one more question. Tell us about your background and where your family's from.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri,
Wow.
which is not a hotbed of Latino culture. My father was an immigrant from Mexico. My mother's family was also from Mexico. She was born in the United States. And my father started off very basically, picking potatoes for 50 cents an hour in rural Missouri. He worked in the railroad, the meat packing plant. He was even a janitor at the school that I went to. But he always told me that he was really an entrepreneur, and he was right. He started businesses, restaurants, import-export company, a construction company. My father was the founder of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce from Kansas City. I became the vice chairman later on in my career, and then I went to Washington to run the Small Business Administration. Currently, I'm in California, back in private business. I run a number of small businesses, and I also am the chairman of the Latino Coalition.
I bet he's proud of you.
Well, we had a mutual admiration society. I lost him a few years ago, but he was a great man and a great mentor and role model. And he used to say to me, look, son, I came to this country with no language, no money, no contacts, and I was able to make a life for myself and my family. And he said, so you should be able to do the same thing because you have more opportunities. You were born here, you have an education. And that really inspired me, and I've tried to maintain his vision and his ethic ever since.
And one last question. Who is your hero and inspiration?
Well, I was just talking about him. It's my father and my mother. They were really a partnership. I used to say that my father was this visionary leader who liked to start businesses, but it was my mother who ran those businesses, and I worked with her every single day. So my parents are really my role models. Everything that I have and I learned really came from them, and just grateful that I had the family that I had.
That's awesome. Well, we'll be praying for you,
Thank you
and
so
God bless
much.
you, and it's a
Appreciate it.
pleasure to interview
Good
you.
luck, and here's to another 10 years.
10 years
Latin
more,
times.
yes.